back to my channel. My name is Victoria and I'm a furloughed flight attendant that is usually based in San Francisco, California. I asked you guys on Instagram what kind of video you guys wanted to see from me, and you guys said that you wanted to see a video all about flight attendant lingo. I do know that it can be super difficult and complicated when you hear certain words, especially like on the plane in an announcement, or I like hear myself talking about stuff on Instagram and I'm like, some people might not even know what I'm talking about. I have some notes of different key phrases that I know and use that I've been taught over the last 5 years of me flying, and just wanted to kind of share them with you guys. These are just some basic terms that flight attendants kind of use. There's a ton more, but yeah, I just figured I would share a few of the fun ones with you guys. The very first term is deadhead. If you've watched any of my flight attendant vlog videos, then you've already heard me use this term deadhead. And to deadhead means that a flight attendant is flying on a plane for a certain flight, but they are not actually working it. So they are sitting in a passenger seat, they get a ticket just like a regular paying passenger, and they don't have to work the flight. Maybe my company needs me to work a flight from Denver to Seattle, but I'm based in San Francisco. So how do they get me from San Francisco to Denver in order to work that flight? They will deadhead me. So they will put me in a passenger seat and I will fly just like a normal passenger from San Francisco to Denver. And then when I get off the plane, I will then work from Denver to Seattle. So I'm deadheading on that very first flight. It happens a lot of times when they need a flight attendant in a certain area that we don't have flight attendants based out of. So each airline has several hubs in different cities, but of course we fly to so many more cities than that. So if we don't necessarily have someone in that city and maybe a flight attendant got sick or a flight changed, anything like that, they need to add more flight attendants or they need to change up the crew or anything, they will make you deadhead to that city. It's a great way. You still get paid the exact same as if you were working the flight. You just don't have to do anything. You're just a passenger. So every flight attendant and pilot, because they deadhead too, every airline crew member loves deadheading. We get to just sit there, we're still getting paid, and we're getting paid to eat our snacks or watch a movie or take a nap or work or do whatever. So deadheading is awesome. If you guys haven't seen any of my videos where I've been deadheading, make sure to check one out. The next term is a red eye, and this is more of a commonly known phrase, but I still wanted to explain it. A red eye is when you are taking a flight that leaves late at night, but you land the next morning. So for example, a flight from San Francisco to Newark takes about 5 hours. Well, if it left at 10 p.m. in San Francisco, it would land at, let me do the math really quick, it would land at 5 a.m. on the East Coast. Even though it's only a 5-hour flight, there's a time change and everything, and the date changes. And the reason why they call it a red eye is supposedly you don't get any sleep on the flight, so when you land your eyes are red because you've been traveling all night. I don't know who came up with that term, but it is totally applicable, especially for flight attendants. A lot of flight attendants don't like working red eyes because we have to stay up the entire time. I personally really like them. Just because there's normally not as much to do. Most passengers are normally sleeping, and I have no problem reading a book or, a magazine or just talking and hanging out with the other flight attendants. But I do know it is very difficult to stay up during those flights. If you have a busy schedule, maybe a red eye works better because if you're able to do 2 things at once, you can sleep and fly. But if you cannot sleep on planes, I don't recommend a red eye. The next term is kind of a funny one that I learned pretty quickly into flying, and it is the term senior mama or senior papa. Now, if you don't know anybody in the industry, let me tell you right now, your seniority means everything. The longer that you've been with the company, the more, I don't want to call it benefits, but kind of perks that you have. For example, my mom's a flight attendant too. She's been flying for 29 years now. I've been flying for 5 years. So if we were to both try to get on a flight at the exact same time, like on standby, if we were both to try to get on this plane to Hawaii. We wanted to go on vacation. She would get on the plane before me because she has more seniority than I do. And also with that, when we are bidding for our schedules each month, she will get her choice first or sooner than I would, because it goes based on seniority. So the very most senior person, who is the senior mama, she would get whatever her first choice was. Well, then when it comes to my mom, who is not actually anywhere near the top of our seniority list for our company, she would get whatever her first choice was that's still available. And then come me at 5 years, I'm junior. There's no senior anywhere near my name, and there won't be for another 15 years probably. But then I get whatever's left pretty much. So the more senior you are, you become a senior mama or a senior papa, and you kind of get what you want as far as your schedule. And I consider senior mama and papas to be the nice, sweet flight attendants that kind of take you under their wing and show you how to do things, and, you know, will point out, oh, that's a really good restaurant right over there, or, oh, make sure to grab this because you're definitely going to need it in your room. Good people, senior mamas and senior papas. There's also some cranky ones too, but the people that earn the titles in my mind are actually really nice people. The other term, and I sort of kind of am one of these people, it is a slam clicker. What we mean by a slam clicker is a flight attendant who gets there to the hotel, and let's say it's a 15-hour layover, right? They will get their hotel key and go up to their room and close the door, lock it, or put the little latch on, and they won't come out until the van time. So slam clicker is the noise that their door makes when they are closing and locking it and not coming out for the night. And it's not like a mean term, but we use it in the way of like, oh, they're definitely not going to hang out with us. Because a lot of times, pre-COVID, obviously, a lot of times the flight attendants will say like, hey, like, I'm going down to the hotel lobby to like grab dinner and a drink if anybody wants to join us. Or, oh, I was gonna go to the mall across the street. Does anybody want to come? A lot of times we will end up hanging out with each other on our layovers, but a slam clicker wouldn't. A slam clicker has their own plans and they're not doing anything. They've worked all day. They just want to be in their room and relax. And I don't blame them. I am most of the time. I will say if a layover is under 16 hours, I'd probably say like 14 to 16 hours, I'm slam clicking. I'm going to my room. I already have my food, or I've ordered my food, and I'm just going to shower and eat and watch TV and just kind of hang out in bed and go to sleep hopefully early for the next day. But if it's a longer layover, I will not slam click. I will go out. A lot of times, some senior mamas and papas will slam click, but a true senior mama and papa will tell you, don't ever slam click. If there's an opportunity, you go out and you do it and you have fun. So there you go. This is kind of a basic term, but it is a turn. A turn is a type of trip that a flight attendant or pilot will go on, and it's just normally a quick flight there, quick flight back, and they're done. So a Denver turn for me would be a flight from San Francisco to Denver. I get off the plane, I walk on and get onto another plane, and then I fly back from Denver to San Francisco all on the same day. I'm gone for just a few hours and end of trip. There's a longer turn, which could be San Francisco to Newark, get off the plane, get on another plane, fly Newark to San Francisco. That is another turn, but that is a high time turn. High time turn is, I would say, probably anything over 8 hours is considered high time, meaning it's just worth way more money because you're flying for longer. I did 2 turns. My very last trips were a Chicago turn and a Seattle turn. So I flew from San Francisco to Chicago and back, and San Francisco to Seattle and back. There you go, turn. Another term is sit. What we mean by sit is sit time at an airport. So if I'm doing that Denver turn that I was telling you about, I could potentially have a 2-hour sit time in Denver, which means I fly from San Francisco to Denver, I get off the plane, and I have 2 hours there before I have to be back on my plane to work from Denver to San Francisco. Just a sit time that we're hanging out in the airport. We're not getting paid for that time, but we still have to sit there in our uniform. Another term is layover. I know a lot of times passengers use the term layover as the term in the way of a sit. So a lot of passengers will say, oh, I have a layover in Seattle for an hour. And what that means is they are flying through Seattle and they have 1 hour from the time their last flight ended to their time the next flight begins. But when crew members use the term layover, they mean the place that they are sleeping for the night. So if I'm working a 3-day trip, I would, that first night, let's say I fly San Francisco to Seattle, I would lay over, meaning I would get a hotel, go to the hotel, spend the night there. Then the next morning, my layover would be over when I get to the airport to fly to Houston, Texas. So it's just kind of different how passengers use the term layover and how crew members use the term layover. And my last term for this video is airport alert or airport standby. They mean the exact same thing, it's just kind of two different terms for it. And what it means is when flight attendants are on reserve, so junior flight attendants majority of the time, not the senior mamas and papas. When junior flight attendants are on reserve or on call, they will often have airport alert or airport standby. And what that means is they need the reserve flight attendants to come in and sit at the physical airport in their uniform with their bags packed, with their passport, with everything. And they will sit there for 4 to 6 hours, just kind of depends on the demand. And they could be called at any minute and they will have just a few minutes to get to the gate to work a flight. And you're only on call for those 4 to 6 hours. So let's say I sit there for 6 hours and they don't call me, they don't have me go work any flight, then guess what? I'm done for the day. I can go home. I got paid for those 4 to 6 hours that I sat there and I didn't get used, but I was ready to be used. So I was alert at the airport. Or they could have me, I could be sitting there and 2 hours into my airport alert, they could call me and say, hey, we need you to go and work a flight. We need you to go over to gate 81 right now because you're about to fly to Seattle. And now I have to get up from the crew room, which is where it's like our employee lounge pretty much. And I will go and work the flight to Seattle and then they'll give me a whole rest of my trip and everything like that. Airport alert or airport standby is pretty much built for if a flight attendant all of a sudden can't come in for their trip and their trip takes off in less than a couple hours. So it could be if maybe they were in a car accident, or maybe they got sick, or maybe they showed up to the airport but they forgot their passport and they can't go to Beijing without their passport, so they need me to go instead. Things like that have happened. Also, sometimes if a flight attendant is running late, they will have another flight attendant on airport alert go and board the plane for them because there has to be a minimum amount of flight attendants on the plane for passengers to be on. So if my mom, for example, is running late and she says, I'm supposed to be there now, but I'm not going to be there for 30 minutes. They say, okay, you're fine. Just come in as soon as you can. They call me on airport alert and say, Victoria, you need to go board this flight at gate 81. And so I go over and I board it. I act as a flight attendant that is working that trip. And then my mom shows up and she gets on the plane and I get off the plane and she continues on her trip. We don't like having to do that, but it does happen. So that is all of my flight attendant lingo and terms for this video. If you guys like this, please give it a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments below if you knew any of these terms and if there's more terms that you want me to explain, because I have no problem making another video. This is kind of fun, just getting to talk about flight attendant life since I'm not really living it right now. I hope you guys are having a good day or night wherever you are. Make sure you're staying safe and always send love out to the world. See you later.